It's a pleasant 60 degrees at my home in LA today, but where I'm going, it could be as cold as 60 below zero. Every 2 years, the US military conducts an operation in the Arctic Circle called Ice Exercise, better known as ICEX. The Arctic region consists of 8 countries that border a vast ice-covered ocean. As the ice melts, the lines on the map are changing, opening up new claims to who controls the high north. I don't really think that often about what's going on in the Arctic, but with global warming opening up vast riches of resources and military exercises with nuclear subs converging underneath the polar ice cap, I wanted to know what's going on at the top of the world and why. As I launch to the Arctic, I talk via Skype with Arctic expert Professor Rob Hubert about the spike in activity in the region.
Most of the Arctic states are now moving towards the improvement of their combat-capable forces within that region. And no one is, of course, calling for an Arctic war or a conflict at this point in time. It is telling that we have 2 American attack submarines doing scientific research off the coast of Alaska.
Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, last stop in the US before heading to the ice station. It's time to get armed with some real cold weather gear. Let's bring on the Arctic.
Hopefully everybody's been given one of these books, Survival in the Arctic.
The only way to get where we're going is a 6-seater bush plane. Finally, amidst a sea of Arctic ice, we spot the camp.
How you doing, Brett James?
Hey sir, how you doing? Kosh Larson. With the US submarines just below our feet, I get my first look at a series of simple wooden huts built in the last 2 months to protect everyone from the extreme conditions. Look at this right here. Balmy 10 degrees right now.
It is a balmy 10 degrees.
About 50 people, from sailors to scientists, have been adjusting to living at the ice station over the course of the exercise.
There's no magazine rack or anything in there. And also importantly is the effectiveness of toilet paper is significantly diminished at minus 40.
Just basic survival at the camp is a challenge. You can't go outside without carrying a rifle in case a polar bear attacks. It's even an expedition to go mine salt-free ice for fresh drinking water. While we're standing on 5 feet of ice right now, we actually are moving 2 to 4 miles per hour. It's just floating. Over the course of the 1-month-long ice exercise, it'll move about 70 miles just from drift alone. So why am I here? Why has the Arctic become a hot spot? The world, it's physically changing beneath my feet. With global warming, the polar ice cap is melting, opening up an ocean for the first time since the Ice Age. This has created access to all kinds of new resources, but it's also created competition at the top of the world. If the Arctic Sea opens up, ships sailing from the Atlantic to the Pacific Oceans, traditionally reliant on the Panama Canal route, can instead use the Northwest Passage, saving thousands of miles and billions of dollars. A third of the world's oil and natural gas is believed to be underneath the polar ice cap. The Arctic riches contain everything from minerals to diamonds. But not everyone believes the quest for resources means competition. In Anchorage, I was briefed by Professor Brigham Lawson.
There is complexity, can be some friction, but not at a high level of military conflict issues that I would see.
Professor Lawson's colleague from the University of Quebec disagrees.
I think at this point, we're on the cusp of becoming remilitarized. People are thinking much more military terms than they ever did since the end of the Cold War.
And back at Ice Camp, military exercises are indeed underway.
Maverick, roger, this is Atlas, all lines Delta Sierra received.
The command hut monitors and communicates with the US submarines 24 hours a day.
That's the New Hampshire here. And this is the Connecticut down here. And that's us in the middle.
In the past, submarines had to surface to communicate. One of the systems in development allows the base camp to send text to the submarine under the ice.
It's almost like a tweet the submarines down here, and I'll press send. There's a hydrophone down there. It blasts out the sound. It sounds like crickets.
Many of the operations are classified, but what we saw was an amalgam of testing, acoustics, submarine tracking, sonar, all under the umbrella of research. In your opinion, what is the purpose of IceX?
Well, it's clearly, there is a scientific basis and it's a nice little cover, but the reality is I think that the American Navy is clearly showing that it is back.
This is a land grab. This is the U.S. presence in the high north, but we're not alone. Other nations are rapidly building their capabilities in the Arctic as well. Russia is creating an Arctic armed forces and has resumed strategic bomber flights over the North Pole. The Canadian government is building 8 ice-strengthened patrol vessels. Denmark is deploying F-16s to Greenland. Norway is building 5 new frigates. In reality, the battle's not for this desolate sheet of ice that I'm sitting on. The real value is beneath the surface. And that's where we're going next, on a nuclear submarine under the ice.